Jesse can join us. Am I lagging or is it not? Is it okay?
Well, it's like your mouth talks, but then the words come.
I noticed that. I'm looking at myself and I'm behind.
I think it's the facial hair.
It's probably that.
So if I go in super
I think you're just always behind Alder Weary.
Almost.
Whoa, super slow. Okay.
That's good.
The Improvement and Service Committee will come to order. We'll note Alder Gerlach is present, Alder Scannell is present, Alder Burnett is on his way, and Alder Weary is present. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gerlach to approve. Any changes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gerlach to approve. Any changes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Everything we do tonight at committee will report out to council next week, Tuesday, 6 o'clock. So we'll start with number 1, consideration with possible action on request to discuss changes to yard waste site operation, including use of the sites by non-Green Bay residents and or contractors, from Alder Stoyer. Director?
Yes, this is a this is a topic that's come up multiple times in the past. One of the biggest issues that we have, excuse me, as staff, is the rules that we operate our yard waste site under limit us to having a maximum of 20,000 yards of compostable material on site at any one time. Having the 2 sites, that provides up to 40,000 cubic yards of capacity. Just residents within the city of Green Bay take up that entire capacity. Matter of fact, we flirt on that dangerous edge sometimes. So opening up to other than city residents or to contractors, for that matter, who are performing work within the city of Green Bay, puts us in very real danger of exceeding that 20,000 cubic yard capacity at our sites. Once you exceed 20,000 cubic yards, there are other restrictions that go in. Whereas you can operate a compost site like we have right now, once you break
rise.
that.
Council President Jesse Burnett is in attendance. Thank you, Jesse, for gracing us with your presence. Sorry, Steve.
That's okay. I'm glad you did it. Now you've got that on the record that he's in the discussion. So. You have to have a clay liner underneath the site where you don't need it under 20,000 yards. There are groundwater monitoring requirements that go along with it that are not in a smaller site. Some of the documentation and turning requirements for turning the compost gets more in because you're dealing with a large capacity site. Not that the city is against that, okay? Matter of fact, we have been working, having discussions with the city of De Pere and the village of Alloway because they are both losing their compost sites over the next year or 2. So with the West Side site, we have engaged the services of an engineering consultant to take a look at redesigning our West Side facility because we actually have to move. Where we operate our West Side facility, we're on county land, and we need to move off of that county land onto city land, which is on the corner. So while we're designing that site that we're going to move on to, we had the consultant investigate what it would look like if we developed that site as a greater than 20,000 cubic yard facility and then redesign the east side site to also exceed the 20,000 cubic yards with the intent of inviting De Pere and Alloway in and then apportioning the costs back amongst the 3 municipalities to see if we could do something for all 3 municipalities cheaper than the 3 of us were doing it individually. So a good cooperative agreement with the other municipalities. We would be happy to include this discussion as part of that study that we're doing already. So it would be recommendation of staff to refer this to staff for study.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Alder Scannell,
Second it.
second by Alder Gerlach to refer this to staff to include into the discussions that are ongoing right now. Any other discussion on that?
Can I ask
We're
a
on
question?
number 1, Alder Burnett. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to be recorded as no voting on this just because I signed in late. I don't
Yep.
have the, so, thank you.
Question,
Altogether?
please?
Yep, altogether.
It just, is there any downside to doing that?
The only downside, again, and that's why we want to do the study, we want to see what the economics are. It may wind up that it's economically unfeasible, in which case we all will have to go our own way and we continue to operate a site like we operate now.
Okay, so you'll find out in the study.
That's the whole purpose of the study. And if it can be done, again, we're getting a little into the weeds of the study right now. We may wind up breaking operations out into multiple sites. And whereas we're doing all of those activities at our existing site right now, we may take clean wood chips and put clean wood chips at one location and the leaves and yard waste at another location because you can treat them differently. The clean wood chips, you don't even have to compost. There are companies who will come in and take that as boiler fuel. So it doesn't count against it counts as a recycling goal, but it doesn't count as your compost goal because we're not actually composting it. Some of these things don't make sense right now due to economy of scale. We don't have the economy of scale to segregate the different activities. Maybe by bringing 2 other municipalities in, now we have enough just yard waste and leaves to do them separately and then take the wood chips and use those for park projects around trees, on playgrounds, and sell the others for boiler fuel. So the whole thing is taking a look at this through a different lens than we have previously.
Okay, good.
Very good. Any other questions? Otherwise, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And Alder Burnett is not voting on that one. And number 2, consideration with possible action on the review and approval of the 2022 sanitary district rates. Lots of spreadsheets.
Okay, in your packet, we have provided some information. Those of you who've been on this committee in previous years have probably seen this. So we start off with the proposed 2022 sewer service charges. And again, both for the sewer service and for the sanitary sewer utility and for the storm sewer utility, all of the city costs in here have been approved by the Common Council as part of the budget process already. So what we're doing is we're taking the budget number and turning that into the rate that we actually charge the resident. With the sanitary utility, in addition to the city costs that come out of our budget, there's also some pass-through costs from Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District, New Water, that get added to that for the treatment. We do the collection, New Water does the treatment. So what Matt Heckenleibel, the utility director, has provided for you is with the non-monitored users, he gives you what the average strength is. These 4 parameters, the BOD, TSS, phosphorus, and TKN, that's what Green Bay Met charges us for in addition to the actual flow. So the gallons plus the strength. Taking that, what you see under section 3C1B service charge, the service charge is the customer charge plus the volume charge. Matt takes these, this average strength and average flow and converts that into your meter size and whether you're billed monthly or quarterly, depending on the size of your water meter. Then the volume charge under 3C1D at the bottom of the first page, those are the current rates for volume, and then each of the 4 strength parameters that we get charged. Top of the next page, he gives you breaking it down per 100 cubic feet, what the charge from Green Bay Met is versus the charge for the city's collection system, and comes out to a $5.81 per 100 cubic feet. Then for monitored users, that's some of our large industrial clients like the Green Bay Packaging, Procter & Gamble, and Georgia Pacifics. There we actually sample their wastewater on a periodic basis. as opposed to assuming the strength parameters like we do for residential waste. We actually go in there and monitor them because their strengths can vary significantly even over the course of a single day. And again, we've got the quantity charges coming through from GBMSD plus the sampling charge. So we get to page 3, which is the sanitary sewer district rate history. And what Matt has done is summarize the volume charge for non-monitored and the minimum charge for non-monitored, the quarterly charge for an average residential customer going back to 1979. So in 2022, we are looking at a quarterly charge for an average residential customer of $140.48, which is about a 7.88% increase over last year's charge. He's also given you a copy of the total budget for the year. The last piece of information that we have is a bar graph that also provides a rate history going back to 1994. And what he's showing you there is the total cost per 100 cubic feet, which for 2022 is proposed to be $5.81. Of that, $2.29 is the city's collection charge, and $3.52 is the Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District treatment charge. So rates are proposed to go up sanitary for non-monitored residential customers from $5.34 per 100 cubic feet in 2021 to $5.81 for 2022.
Well, thank you, Steve. I love charts. I love the graphs. I love the history graphs. You know, it really shows, really helped out. And as you can see, I just kind of jotted down real quick here from 94 to 08, it only went up 27 cents. It was just barely kind of stayed even. In the last 14 years, it tripled from $1.80 to $5.81. If I recall, isn't there a lot of infrastructure being done by the district?
There's actually a real good correlation to that, and that's a discussion that we've had recently. There was a point of emphasis during that same time period there in the 90s where the rates were kept relatively flat, that Green Bay Met was not making that reinvestment in infrastructure, and what they wound up with was, as we started approaching the 2000s, they had delayed infrastructure needs that had been unmet while they kept that rate level, and everything came due at once. So yes, there was tens of millions of dollars of infrastructure needs that they started implementing in the early 2000s, and that's why you're seeing those rates jump as high as they did, as quick as they did.
Do we think that's going to level off? Because it's a kind of an ugly chart to look at, you know, the steep incline.
Well, what we've been seeing, you know, especially since about 2017, is a little bit of a flattening of that curve. It's not quite as steep as it was, say, from 2008 up to 2015. So a lot, you know, I believe in that 12, 13 up to 17, they were still paying off the R2E2 project. And at one time I used to know what R2E2 stood for. It was energy efficiency and resource recovery or something like that.
We've all seen Star Wars. We know R2D2.
I was just gonna say,
But that was, I want to say that project was in excess of $100 million in capital outlay. So getting R2E2 retired was one of the huge things they had to do. Now the next big hurdle that's facing Green Bay Met is phosphorus control, which we also deal with on the stormwater side. And they have taken an aggressive approach to that. Oh God, I'm trying to think of what they call it. They're offsite.
Think of the Silver Creek.
Yeah. Adaptive management. I knew it would come to me eventually. And what adaptive management is, what they're going to places where it's easy to go in and do something that will capture phosphorus, and because they're capturing it there, then they get to discharge a little bit more over here as long as the net effect is a decrease. So they've been working with farmers and things like that to help isolate non-point source. So getting phosphorus capture off of farm fields, for instance, would be a way to do that. Okay, and you can capture a lot of phosphorus in a relatively small area, or you can spend a lot of money to chemically take a little bit of phosphorus in the wastewater and reduce it to a little bit less. Okay, you get more bang for your buck working on a non-point source. So what they're doing is they're capturing the phosphorus there as opposed to trying to reduce the little bit of phosphorus that's coming out of the plant. As long as the phosphorus doesn't get into the river and the bay, you've accomplished the same goal.
All right. Questions from the committee?
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
to approve by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gerlach. Discussion on this item? Alder Burnett?
Obviously, the concern would be the curve seems to be kind of like going pretty straight up. And I know that you cannot control the Director Grenier, but that's just, it's striking. And I know a lot of that is just the cost of these sorts of services, and we're not probably unlike any other municipality, especially a municipality like ours, but it's just something that catches the eye, let's just say.
Yes, I don't disagree with you.
Alder Gerlach?
I just would like you to convey my sympathy to Matt Heckenleibel. I didn't know he had to spend his days doing stuff like this. This is horrible. I hope he has a whole bunch of little elves working for him.
Alder Dorf? I think you need to, there you go.
So there's the blue part and the purple part, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the blue part is bigger than the purple part most of the time, right? So say what those are again. What's the blue part?
Well, the blue part, the blue part is the MET. That's the treatment charge.
The treatment charge. And the purple part is?
Purple part is city. That's the collection.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the sanitary sewer pipe that goes from the sanitary main that's under the street and the manhole is us. At various locations around the city, those manholes drop to a deeper pipe that's called an interceptor sewer.
Okay.
Where it drops into that interceptor sewer, that becomes Metro Green Bay Mets, and the treatment plant that's up at the mouth of the Fox is Green Bay Met. So we collect.
Which one is going up
both
faster? They are both going up like the same amount as far as it costs the same upcharge.
Over the past several years, Green Bay Mets has gone up faster than ours has because of some of the infrastructure needs that they've had.
Okay.
But ours continues to escalate as well because as we are trying to do more roads, we're replacing more sanitary sewer underneath those roads.
Well, that makes sense. And we know that's what our constituents want.
Yes.
Are roads. Roads are really important. And it's foolish to replace a road and not replace the sanitary system underneath the road, because then you might have to tear it up later on, right?
Correct. So we're trying to be judicious about what we're doing, still continue to do more roads, but keep everything holistically. And again, this plays into it. The discussion on the storm sewer is going to be the same thing. We're mindful of what water utility has because they've only got a certain amount that they can spend during the course of the year. So we've got a number of interests that we're trying to keep balanced against each other and still continue to do more.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Other questions or comments? All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And we are on to number 3, consideration with possible action on the review and approval of the 2022 stormwater utility rates. Another chart.
Stormwater actually is a whole lot easier because at the nexus of it, the first page shows you the stormwater utility 2022 budget, and we have a total dollar value down at the bottom of $9,892,691. At the top right corner, you see number of ERUs is 79,250. That's the total number of ERUs in the city of Green Bay. You take that dollar value and divide it by the number of ERUs, and that comes out to $124.83 per ERU per year. We simply take the storm sewer budget. We don't have that upcharge from Green Bay Met that we have to add in. This is 100% our charge. You simply divide the budget by the number of ERUs, and you come out with what the charge per ERU is on an annual basis. Then we take that $124.83 and convert it to an ERU charge per month of $10.40. Matt has provided you again with a summary table going back to about 2004, showing what our budget and our ERU charges have been going back historically. And then the last page looks like it got cut off. I'm going to have to talk to somebody about that. He has the graph in there, also showing the charges and total expenditures for the stormwater utility, but it looks like that got cut off at about 2015.
Mine didn't.
Oh, mine did. It's probably printed. It probably came out the correct size in the packet, and when I printed mine, I only printed it at 8.5 by 11, so mine clipped off.
All right, and this is where we would see the shift from the forestry or parks department into this rate, right?
That is correct.
Somewhere in, was it 2019-ish? You can kind of see where it jumps up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me,
question.
what do you mean by that, Alderweary?
See if maybe you can explain it more.
No,
Sure,
just briefly,
sure.
is that when it shifted over to to stormwater?
Yes.
Yeah, when they took-
Starting in either 19 or 20. I'm trying to remember, and again, I can't see
Thought it was
on my
20.
screen right now.
Somewhere there, yeah.
88% of the forestry department costs were shifted over from the general levy under the Parks Department to the stormwater utility because the terrace trees are instrumental in taking up stormwater.
One more.
Yes, you told me that long ago.
Yeah. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell to approve, second by Alder Gerlach. Discussion on this one? No, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4, consideration with possible action on request by Department of Public Works to purchase gate arms for Main Street Bridge via sole source from B&B Roadway in the amount of $15,400, not including freight.
Okay, of the 3 downtown bridges, city owns the Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge on Main and at Dousman. The gate arms that come down across the roadway when the bridge is open, those get hit more often than you'd care to think. And they're
Yeah.
incredibly expensive to replace once they do. We did have another accident in October, and that used up the last of our on-hand parts. It's important to have replacement parts there for when those gates do get hit. So we worked with the purchasing department, buying the exact parts that we're asking from B&B Roadway Supply. These are the only acceptable parts. We need to have parts that work with our gates. So what we're requesting is a sole source, and again, we did work with the purchasing department on this. They are concurring with the sole source, so it would be an expenditure of $15,400 plus freight, and we won't know what the freight is until we actually get the quote in. Nope. I don't know if anyone's tried to order something other than Amazon, but to order something big, no shipper is willing to commit to a freight charge until you actually sign on send them a PO, and then they'll compute the freight charges for you because freight is so variable at this point. But this would be paid for out of our bridge maintenance funding.
Thanks, Steve. I do have one question. Do we, on the back end, get some reimbursement, like if a motorist damages it and they stick around?
Sometimes,
insurance?
sometimes. To the extent that we can, we do try to subrogate back if we can determine who is at fault in the accident. Sometimes we deal with uninsured or underinsured motorists, and we're not successful in subrogating. Sometimes we are, and that's I'm sure Mr. Pierlot will attest. Not only on the gate arms, but we see it more often on traffic or lighting, street lighting. If it's a city-owned street light, we definitely try to go back after the offending party as much as we can, and sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not.
All right. Alder Dorf, I think you had your hand up first, and then Alder Scannell.
That was actually the question, but I just wonder, and are there cameras there so we can see license plates? So we can identify who did it?
There are some cameras on the Nitschke Bridge. They are not necessarily for that purpose, so I don't know that they've got the resolution to see the license plate. The other problem that you have is because the license plates are retroreflective. A lot of times if something happens at night, the bridge lighting shining on the license plate washes out. You can't read the plate.
Okay. Thanks. That was actually, and Alder Weary's question was my exact question. If you hit it, shouldn't you have to pay for it? But, okay. Alder Weary disappeared now.
Call on yourself, Alder Scannell.
Yeah, I'm vice chair. I'll call myself.
Hi, man. Sorry. Got briefly interrupted. I think we had a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, okay.
I still got a question.
Oh, no. Then I'm going back on mute. No, okay, go ahead, Alder Scannell.
Do we have insurance on any of this? Because the city is.
The city does, but we are self-insured with a $25,000 deductible.
Oh.
Right, and the insurance policy says that objects in the open are not covered, even if you would exceed the 25,000 in damage.
So then we got to cover the bridge so it's not out in the open.
Yeah.
Okay, then I just want to add that I'm not afraid of what the freight charges will be, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gerlach. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. All right. Number 5, consideration of possible action on parking division access and revenue control equipment service agreement. Sounds like a Chris thing.
You are correct, sir.
Yeah, just to give you a little background, the parking division replaced our parks equipment, PARCS, parking access and revenue control system. Gates, the computer stuff, the counters, all that fun stuff, the revenue control, kiosks, all that fun stuff that control our ramps and the Adams Street lot back in 2017. So it's pretty new. The name of the manufacturer is Ski Data, but we bought it from a vendor named APT, Automatic Parking Technologies. Well, APT earlier this year announced we're being bought out by a different parking operator. So we went to the other parking operator in like June and said, okay, this is kind of like almost rocket science, microelectronics and all that fun stuff that we can deal with the mechanical stuff. But when it gets into the intricacies, software, all that stuff that's proprietary, we as well as pretty much every other parking operator on the planet maintain a maintenance agreement with a vendor to so stuff running because they know most about what they designed and built. We can replace gates and ticket stock and refill the money spitters with dollar bills and quarters, but when you get into the super technology, that's really up to them. Well, the new vendor said, no, we're not going to honor the service agreement that you have. We pay about $35,000 a year. We're not going to honor it after January 1st of 2022, which, as we all know, is less than a month away. And we went around for months and months before we finally got an answer from them. So we finally been dealing with the actual vendor, the ski data, the manufacturer, who said, no, we're gonna do service right from the manufacturer. We're not gonna go through a middle person. And so we've been talking with them, myself, talking about pricing. What's the pricing structure? And the prices have gone up a little bit. We're going to get better service. We're looking at, there's the documents that we shared in the packet. There's the software side. They call that the SaaS agreement, SaaS, software as a service. They just use acronyms. It sounds more important, I guess. That's $1,000 a year. And a lot of this stuff is in the cloud now. It's not online or not on site. So you're mercy of the manufacturer, the vendor, but they take care of it. We have something wrong. This doesn't work. We call them up. They fix it. And they know that we have to stay in business because we're a parking operator. So the turnaround time is pretty quick. That doesn't concern us. And then on the hardware side, say if something highly technical breaks down that we at Parking Division can't fix or don't know what's going on, a lot of it is software versus hardware interactions, and then electronic boards, stuff like that. That's on the service agreement side. We're looking at just the basic, because this is pretty robust equipment, but it is, as it ages, it's bound to have issues just like cars and houses and furnaces and stuff like that. So we're looking at the basic service plan plus the software service plan to begin on or about January 3rd of 2022 at about $45,000 per year, at least for 2022. It's not a terrible price. If I was paying it out of my own personal pocket, yeah, it's a lot of money, but that's pretty much the going rate. We've been looking around at other comparable costs, and it seems to be pretty consistent within the parking industry. So it's almost like, and parking's such a niche industry. It's not like you can just drive down the street and go to 10 different car dealers. Parking technology is very unique. Software is very unique. It's not like you can just, go to the store and buy, here's our parking software package. So, from what we have surmised talking to colleagues in the industry and just research, this is our best bet at this time. $45,000 a year for the service agreement is not bad. And the vendor, the actual manufacturer, seems very responsive and will be very responsive. They've even added some extra benefits off of the higher package under the basic package for us. So at least right now we're feeling good. It depends on what happens when we get there. But I feel pretty confident. Ski Data is a very reputable parking industry company, and that's what equipment we have. So I've at least right now, I'm feeling pretty darn confident, and we need to, start gaining some experience with it.
Thanks, Chris. Questions, committee?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alder.
I'll second it, but then I have a question.
Sure. Second by Alder Gerlach. Go ahead.
And the money comes from where?
Out of the Parking Division budget. We have money budgeted for 22. We budgeted $35,000 plus an increase. I think I can go back and look, but I'm remembering about $42,000 we budgeted for the service contract, not knowing where we were going to be going because we put the budget back together, when it was still warm out. But of course, each budget line item account, some are hoping they're all under budget, but some they fluctuate. At the end of the year, the bottom line is typically we try real hard, and right now for 21 we're looking pretty decent that we're going to be under budget. So I feel we'll have the money to pay for it in 22, even though it's a little bit more than we expected.
Okay.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, Chris. Let's see here. 6, report of actions taken by Department of Public Works. Granting of 2022 licenses, Sidewalk Builder, Ravine America Maintenance, LLC. That license was granted. We need Randy to say, receive it and place it on file, I think is how he says it.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's my motion.
I would second that.
Motion by Loscano, second by Alder Gerlach. Discussion on that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Informational Director's Report.
Okay, just a couple of things for you tonight. We did have our first real decent snowfall over the weekend. Just want to make sure that we keep you folks up to date on what's going on. We are currently sitting with 4 vacancies at our truck driver level. So amongst the Sweet 16, doing simple math, that's a 25% reduction in our Sweet 16 drivers. And on a full plow with everything that we've got out there, we have a total of 32 trucks that we'll put on the road. So that's, a reduction in force of 1/8 that we need to backfill some other location, or we have open routes. We are actively trying to fill those positions, but just so that you know, we are currently running short-staffed at the truck driver. We are also down 3 rental graders. We do rent some graders and some loaders every year. Equipment manufacturers that we have rented from in the past are not as willing to provide rental units to us, so we have been struggling trying to get rentals. And the graders and loaders are among the pieces of equipment that we really enjoy having because they do have that ability to generate the down pressure that we talk about. Again, a plow blade can't push down, so you're dealing simply with the static weight of the plow in order to dig in. And if people are driving on the snow before we can get there, which is what happened over the weekend, we had wet, heavy snow, and the tire tracks tend to pack themselves in, and the plow blade's going to ride over the top of that as opposed to dig in. The graders and loaders can actually dig in and scrape that stuff off. Now, we got lucky this week in the fact that we had unseasonably warm temperatures, and it looks like around the city pretty much, even in residential zones, we're back down to bare pavement. So we're happy about that. But response times are going to be a little bit slower. Plow events are going to last a little bit longer. And especially losing those 3 rental graders, that's definitely going to have some impact on our ability to get back to a square one. And if you're seeing some a little bit of fallback in service level, that's why it is. So we just want to make sure we're being honest with you guys, so that we have good expectations for our folks. The other thing that I need to announce to everybody is it's been kind of a rough week in engineering. Matt Heckenleibel had both of his utility engineers tender resignations within the last week. Caitlin Zielinski is going to be moving on to a consultant role. It's a good opportunity for her. It's going to hurt for us, but going to an engineering consultant will open up her professional development. She'll be exposed to a wider variety of projects than what she's currently seeing here at the city. We hope to see her back at some point. Ryan Pickler is the other engineer in the utility section, and Ryan applied for and was successful in obtaining a position with the Department of Natural Resources that became vacant due to retirement of a long-term friend of many of us. So Ryan is going to be moving over there into a regulator role. Quite a significant pay increase for him and some additional responsibilities. So it's another situation where it's a great career move for him. Again, we're going to miss having him here, but both of those individuals in the time they spent with the department have definitely been noticed and appreciated. Like everything else, we got to take that in stride and put our selfish wishes aside and wish them the best for their continued professional growth and development. Then earlier this week, we were also advised that one of our administrative assistants in the front office is going to be leaving us and taking a sales position with a private company. So we've enjoyed getting Casey on staff and getting her trained. She was fitting in well, but she's decided to pursue other opportunities. Unfortunately for Beth, we only have 3 administrative assistants that run our entire for engineering and operations. So losing one out of the 3 is going to be difficult, especially here over the holidays. But we'll get that posting open and try to get somebody recruited and in there as soon as possible. So,
Thanks, Steve. Alder Dorf and then Alder Scannell.
Thank you. I just want to mention that we did talk about this at personnel, and we did ask Director Falls to look at our salary schedule. Again, we haven't done that for 5 years. We're losing good people. We don't exactly know why, but there will be not only the online exit interviews, but we're going to be requesting in-person exit interviews because, and they can say no to those. I mean, they don't have to do the in-person, but we're going to be digging a little deeper via personnel and to try and find out, you know, why. And if there are things we possibly can do about it. Of course, the private sector, sometimes we just can't compete. But maybe we need to be looking at what we offer. So I wanted to just tell you that we did discuss that already last night.
Thank you, Alder Dorf. Alder Scannell.
Yeah, I'd just like to extend my congratulations and thank them for their service, those who are moving on. Appreciate what you've done for the city and good luck going forward. With plows, with the street shortages, what's the outlook for that? Do we hope to fill those positions pretty soon? Have they been open for a long time, or?
It has been a while. It just seems that the current job trend is, many years ago, the truck driver position was very coveted and sought after. And to be able to get into a truck driver position in DPW, you were a seasoned veteran in DPW before you were able to slot into that. But and I don't know, you know, I'm sure that there are a million different contributing factors, but maybe as an old guy, I'm thinking a little bit as, you know, I've read a lot of text and articles and stories about younger generations really enjoying their personal time. Truck drivers, especially in the winter, are, as a commitment in our core duty, DPW, taking care of these roads. Anytime we have precipitation that accumulates, we're out there. So there's a lot of overtime and a big commitment. And so, you know, that's only one small contributing factor. And now, you know, we see new people coming in who go right to truck driver because internal people don't want to move up into a truck driver position.
now we had a listening session with the street section a couple of weeks ago over at the West Side Garage. The mayor and Director Falls were in attendance as well. And there were some of the seasoned veterans who were offering some of their takes on what's going on. One of the reasons that that truck driver position was such a coveted role was how the truck drivers were handled under the contract language pre-Act 10. Now, we understand Act 10's been more than 10 years ago. Okay, we get that. But we've got guys who've been here longer than that and remember the old ways. And some of those perks that they had under the pre-Act 10 contracts that no longer exist, at least from what they've told us, make the job less desirable than it otherwise had been previously. I know a couple of the folks had offered up, I think one of them mentioned Quick Trip, that Quick Trip is offering, you know, like $20 an hour to work at a Quick Trip. And,
They are. Yeah.
okay, and you have a regular schedule that doesn't include getting called away from your family at a moment's notice on a Saturday night, when our truck drivers, I think our truck drivers are between, you know, step one is 20 and change, and I think the control point for truck drivers is 2482 or something like that. I just looked it up today. So when you have a employees market, everybody's looking to hire right now. Wages are going up, and you can have a job that doesn't have the stress or responsibilities and still get paid close to the same. There's a lot of folks who are opting for that better work-life balance like Chris was talking about.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
I'm sure you don't really mean thanks, but I understand.
Yeah.
I'm being
Good to
polite.
know.
I mean, I know we discussed this, right, Steve, that the west side,
Yes, sir.
we get our plowing first and then we shift over.
Yeah.
And then we get the east side. I mean,
I think pretty much every alder's got plowed last.
I think Steve tells that to everybody. Just
Yeah.
My constituents they all got plowed last time. So, it's funny.
It actually wound up being kind of, I don't want to say funny, but maybe a little ironic, that one of Alder Dorf's constituents had written into her discussing, our plowing activities, and he was complaining about the atrocious state of the road he lived on. And I told him I'm very well aware of the condition of Charity Lane. I live 3 houses away from you.
wow. Alder Burnett.
I always thought it made sense to start on the far west side and just towards the east.
Plow your way in.
Yeah,
Makes the most sense.
I'll second that.
I think the center out.
There we go. I'm fine with either one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to plow ahead here and make a motion to receive and place on file.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett to receive and place on file. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. There, that's a Randy motion. I don't even wait. Or not Randy, Andy. What do we have here? Next committee meeting is January 12th. All right, the new year, 2022. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Just
Once, going twice.
on behalf of staff, we won't be seeing you guys as a formal committee before then. We want to wish you all happy holidays and express our appreciation for working with you. It's definitely been enjoyable, and we definitely appreciate the levity that you folks are bringing to oftentimes serious topics. So it's our pleasure to work with you folks, and want to make sure that you know that we wish you happy holidays.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion, Steve.
Tell the staff that.
There you go.
Happy holidays.
Motion by Grenier, second by Pierlot to thank and wish everyone. All right. Motion carried. All right. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good night. See you
Thanks,
Sunday
everyone.
downtown.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.